Well, folks, a couple of months ago we bought you the most expensive feeder on the market.
Yeah.
And today, I'm going to say we've got the most expensive floats on the market, haven't we?
Not far off, but what a thing of beauty they are, Tom.
Hold it against your top, they do look great.
Look at them. And they are crow-quill avens if you don't know what they actually are. And you have to be an angler of a certain age or a certain era to appreciate what they are. But if you are one of them anglers, you know what these do. And
also called a topper, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's
topper float. They're basically a balsa body with a crow-quill tip and stem. So they're very fragile as such, as in very delicate floats. But to work, it's basically the original bolo float, I would say. Before bolo rods came about and long rods and stuff like that. So if you wanted to fish distances out, but in tricky winds and that, but didn't want to use a waggler, these ones were the ones. And a chap called Top Haskins made these famous, who used to fish on the Bristol Avon a lot. He was the probably the first person, to what I know, who made them. But these are made by one of my pals, and he makes them for us. And the reason I wanted to do this video I got a right telling off my boss yesterday when he had to pay, when he saw it billed for them, because he says in the old traditional Yorkshire term, how much? I went, I know they're expensive, but we need some in shop. And he went, I'll tell you something, if they don't sell, you're buying all lot of them. I says, well, I'll take it on chin, I will buy them. But this morning we put them out on the counter, and the first customer who came into the shop bought 8 of them.
Yeah. And
if you do know what they are, you will appreciate them. But they are a crow-quill avon topper float. Now, my pal who makes these by hand. And if I told you, every single thing on that float he makes by hand. He goes out and gets the quills. He turns the bodies on his own lathe in his kitchen. He then has to strip all the feathers off the quills. He has to then rub them all down with sandpaper twice. He then has to get each individual quill and hold them over his cooker to straighten them, and burns his fingers with every one, because he has to sit there and hold them and sit and pull them and bend them and make them straight. Then when he's made the bodies, the quills are fitted top and bottom in 2 separate pieces, and they're not even glued in, they're just pushed in, and he has to file them out, every single one individually. It's filed out at the top and then filed out at the bottom to make them. He uses an epoxy resin to paint them. He has to do the epoxy. It's a two-pack epoxy. He has to mix the equal amount of each epoxy for each float, because you only get 5 minutes before the epoxy starts hardening. So he has to do each float individually with the epoxy. And honestly, the workmanship that goes into one of them, if you took it in hours, it's probably 6 hours labour.
Yeah.
At least to make one float. So, as I said, my boss says, you've never paid that for them. They're selling at $9.99, but my pal who makes them isn't going to be making them for much longer. He's getting on a bit now. He's my friend Mick, and I don't think he's going to be making them much longer. So we've just had one last run of these done. So if you do want some crow quills, we've got about 10, 15 of each size in the shop. This time as well, because we did get asked that on the last time, he put the traditional way of shotting them as well, as we like a string of BBs. It just seems to work better than Olivet's. But the modern angler and the modern way of fishing, people wanted the weights in grams, because that's what they associate everything with. So he has put grams on these ones for us. So it's not hard to work out, but they're just a work of it. And we've been on about this beforehand as well, and we're going to take a couple of these out, aren't we?
We are. We're going to go on the Don next week, aren't we?
One thing a couple of people have said to me is, when they've had a look at them, they don't think that they're finished off there. They used to have a bit of whipping on round there,
Focus
Tom.
on that. Let's have a look there. We are
Can you see it? It's
Yeah,
like
just
a
at the
bit of
bottom
a shoulder.
where the body joins.
Yeah, where the quill goes into the body. It seems to be a bit like rough and ready there. And the original Topper Askins were whipped there, and there was whipped underneath there and at the bottom, and they had a bit of whipping round the thing to keep it stable. Now, look at that one. That's the same float, but all it's got is a little piece of silicone on the top.
Yeah.
And it looks a completely different float.
Yeah.
Now, what my pal says to me is when he fishes with them, when you put the whipping on the top,
Yeah.
and then you put your silicone over the top of that, it looks too bulky.
Got you.
So what he does is he leaves that top bit out. It's
Yeah.
all resined in and sealed, so it can't let water in, and that tip will never pull out. But when you put your silicone on, like that, look,
Yeah.
you push it down and it sits onto that shoulder perfectly. So
Got you.
everything's in line then when you're fishing with it.
Perfect.
So that is just something that I wanted to do a little video on myself, because I know how much work and effort goes into them floats, what my pal makes for us here at shop. And just if you want to, if you want to call it an old-fashioned river angler or whatever, you understand what these floats are all about.
Yeah, a nice thing to own, aren't they?
Yeah, they are just a nice thing to own anyway. So if you do like fishing traditionally, get yourself a set of them and you'll not be disappointed.